Imagine a world where betrayal doesn't just cost you your life, but your dignity and legacy. Where punishment is more than justice, it's an instrument of terror. This was the Persian Empire, and their methods of control were as brutal as they were ingenious. Welcome to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most terrifying and brutal empires in history, the Persian Empire. Known for its vast reach and unwavering control, the Persians didn't just conquer lands, they used fear and unimaginable punishments to maintain their rule. The Persian Empire stands out in history as a civilization that mastered the art of maintaining power, not just through military conquest, but through a calculated and merciless system of punishments. These punishments were more than mere retribution. They were a message to the world about the absolute power of the Persian monarch, meant to instill terror and maintain order across the vast stretches of the empire. The punishments devised by the Persians were not only brutal, but they were meticulously designed to degrade the victim's dignity and ensure that all subjects, from the lowest peasant to the highest noble, understood the consequences of disobedience. One of the most infamous punishments used by the Persians was scaphism, an execution method so horrific that it still horrifies even the most hardened individuals. Known as the boats, scaphism was a particularly cruel form of punishment, recorded by the Greek historian Plutarch. In the 4th century BCE, under the reign of Artaxerxes II, it was said that a person accused of treason or a serious offense against the state would be bound between two narrow wooden vessels, with only their head, arms, and legs exposed. Then, a mixture of milk and honey was forced into their mouth and smeared over their body. The concoction attracted insects, which swarmed over the person, laying eggs and feeding on their exposed flesh. The milk and honey also accelerated the decay of the body, subjecting the victim to agonizing torment. It was believed that this slow, cruel process could stretch on for days, even weeks, with the victim succumbing to the effects of dehydration, exposure, and the relentless consumption by insects. This form of execution was not merely a death sentence. It was a method of destroying a person's body and soul, reducing them to a spectacle of suffering, visible for all to see. Though some modern scholars debate the frequency of its use, the fact that it was recorded and remembered through the ages suggests that it had a profound psychological impact on those who heard of it. Scaphism became a symbol of Persian cruelty, reinforcing the empire's ruthless ability to instill fear in the hearts of its enemies and subjects. Another form of punishment that struck fear into the hearts of the Persian people was the slow and suffocating death meted out to traitors. Betrayal was met with annihilation, not just the death of the body, but the erasure of the person's legacy and name. A chilling example of this comes from the reign of Artaxerxes II, during which a man named Mithridates, once favored by the king, was sentenced to die for treason. According to Plutarch's account in Life of Artaxerxes, Mithridates was confined in a room filled with hot ash. As the fine, heated ash filled the room, the traitor suffocated slowly, his every breath drawing in the ash, causing his lungs to gradually close in on themselves. The heat added to his torment, making his struggle for air even more desperate. This execution was not a swift or merciful death. It was a slow and deliberate suffocation, intended to break the spirit as much as the body. The Persian rulers understood that the act of punishing a traitor in such a cruel and calculated manner would not only eliminate the person, but also send a message to any would-be betrayers. Treason was not just punished, it was annihilated. In the Persian Empire, theft was considered a grave offense that threatened the stability of society. To steal was to directly challenge the authority of the king and the very order of the empire. As such, the punishment for theft was swift and severe. Amputation was the primary method used to punish thieves, particularly the amputation of a hand. The ancient historian Herodotus mentions the harshness of Persian law in histories, noting that rulers like Darius I were stringent in their enforcement of order, especially when it came to safeguarding property. The loss of a hand was not just a physical mutilation, it was a profound social and economic disaster. The hand that was severed symbolized not only the thief's crime, but also their permanent mark of dishonor. The thief became a social outcast, their ability to work and engage in society irrevocably destroyed. It was not just a punishment, it was a powerful, visible deterrent, meant to prevent future thefts by showing that the price of dishonesty was more than one could afford to pay. When it came to rebellion, the Persian Empire employed methods of punishment designed to strike fear into anyone contemplating insurrection. One of the most terrifying punishments was impalement, a method designed to make an example of those who dared challenge imperial authority. The historian Herodotus recounts how, after quelling a rebellion in Babylon, King Darius the Just ordered the execution of around 3,000 rebel leaders, many of whom were impaled publicly. Impalement was not a private affair, it was meant to be seen by all. The victim would be impaled on a sharp stake, their body elevated for public display, often in highly visible locations such as city gates or along important roads. The sight of a body impaled on a stake was a grim warning to anyone considering rebellion. To defy the king was to face a death so brutal and visible that it would haunt the minds of all who witnessed it. Impalement was designed to break not just the body, but the will of those who saw it. The victim's lingering death was a symbol of crushed defiance, and the message was clear: rebellion would not be tolerated. Equally terrifying was the use of stoning as a form of execution. This punishment was often used for moral or social offenses, such as adultery or sacrilege, and could be carried out by the community or a group of officials. Stoning was a communal act, meant not only to punish the individual but also to emphasize the collective responsibility of society in upholding the law. Ctesias, the Greek historian, records that stoning was sometimes used by the Persians under rulers like Cambyses the Second and Darius the First. The condemned person would be buried or confined in a way that left them helpless to escape, and the crowd would then pelt them with stones until they died. This act was a powerful reminder to all that the law was upheld by the community and that certain offenses would be met with swift and unrelenting punishment. It was a form of justice that could not be evaded or ignored. Crucifixion, while more commonly associated with the Roman Empire, also has its roots in Persian practice. The Persian kings, especially Darius the First and Cyrus the Great, used crucifixion as a punishment for those who betrayed the empire or violated military discipline. Herodotus and Xenophon both recount instances where crucifixion was used to punish disloyalty among the elite. For instance, 300 servants of the satrap Oroites were crucified for their betrayal. Crucifixion in Persia was not just a form of execution, it was a public spectacle. The condemned were nailed or bound to wooden frames, their bodies left exposed to the elements. This prolonged, humiliating death served a dual purpose. It punished the individual and also served as a powerful warning to others. The message was simple and clear. Disloyalty, no matter the rank of the person committing it, would be met with a slow, agonizing, and highly visible death. Among the more common but still brutal punishments was the public whipping of those who insulted or disobeyed royal authority. Whipping was not a punishment for serious crimes like treason, but rather for those who insulted or defied the king's command. Herodotus records how Xerxes ordered the whipping of a river that had impeded his army during the invasion of Greece, symbolizing his absolute control. Whipping also served as a punishment for soldiers who failed in their duty. The whipping was performed publicly, and the scars left behind served as a permanent reminder of the sovereign's power. The act of whipping was a way to enforce discipline, to remind everyone of the consequences of defying the royal will. The punishments used by the Persian Empire were not just methods of enforcement, they were a calculated means of instilling fear and maintaining absolute control. The rulers of Persia understood that the power to punish was as important as the power to conquer. These methods, whether scaphism, stoning, or impalement, were designed not only to punish, but to create an atmosphere of terror and compliance throughout the empire. These extreme measures raised a vital question. Did such extreme punishments ensure the empire's stability? Or did they reveal a fragile system, one built more on fear than genuine loyalty? The Persians, through their cruelty, made a powerful statement about the nature of their rule, but they also left behind a legacy of fear, suffering, and unrelenting control. As Darius IV declared, "By the grace of Ahura Mazda, I am king. Ahura Mazda gave me this kingdom." Power was claimed by divine will and guarded without mercy. The Persian Empire, with its vast reach and complex bureaucracy, lasted for centuries, but it was a kingdom held together by the chains of terror, a dominion built on the backs of those who dared to defy its iron rule. From scaphism to crucifixion, the Persian Empire's punishments shaped history with fear and spectacle. What do you think? Were these extremes essential for maintaining order, or did they reveal the fragility of absolute power? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the darkest corners of history. Thanks for watching.